It's been 5 months since the fires hit in Spokane County, in Medical Lake and Elk, the Oregon Road and Gray fires, and there's been a ton of work done, and everyone around the table has been a part of really stepping up and meeting the need, both in the short term, and we also have long-term impacts. And now that we're in the middle of winter and it's been months, certainly we have people that are trying to rebuild, people who've lost homes, lost everything, and still without answers. And so today is really an opportunity to come together, to gather, and I want to talk a little bit about the work at the federal level, trying to get an answer from the White House and from FEMA on the declaration. So I think what would be good is to go, it's good that we have so much media here also. So there's certainly a lot of it, thank you all for being here, but I want to go around and do introductions because we have people around the table and then people that are online. I'm Cathy McMorris Rodgers, and I have the honor of representing all of you in Congress, and it's just great to be home this week and be able to get around and address some issues here locally. So, and Mayor, would you start us off?
Sure. Mayor Terry Cooper for the City of Medical Lake, and also the president of the Long-Term Recovery Group that's recently formed.
I'm Captain Kelly Kane. My husband and I oversee the Salvation Army in Spokane.
You're new then.
We've been here since August.
August.
Actually, the fire happened 2 weeks after we got here.
Okay.
Welcome to the
So you're the captain?
Yes.
We are co-leaders.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. I haven't had the chance to meet you yet.
Great to meet you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for being here.
Kate Peterson, I live and work at Silver Lake Bible Camp. I'm the guest services manager and been helping the mayor of Medical Lake in all the rebuilding process.
And you lost your home.
I did.
I'm Andrea Reedy, Director of Business and Operations at the Salvation Army.
Chandra Fox, Deputy Director of Emergency Management for Spokane County.
Captain David Kate.
Sean Jones, the disaster coordinator for the Northwest Division of the Salvation Army.
Mary Cooney, Spokane County Commissioner.
Josh Kearns, Spokane County Commissioner.
Rob Valencia, Commissioner Kearns' office.
Do we zip around to me?
Yeah, might as well.
Okay,
Get the ring. Yeah.
I'm Dick Zehnert, I'm a lifetime resident of Elk, and chairman of the Elk Strong Committee and vice chairman of the Long-Term Recovery Group with Terry. I'm privileged to be here.
Thanks. Thanks for all you do. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, I'll just take
Christina,
a minute
yeah,
and
yeah,
introduce
that'd be
our
great.
guests that we have joining us via Zoom. So we've got Commissioner Al French with us, Robert Ezell from Washington State Emergency Management, Jerry Johnson is joining us from Reimagine Medical Lake, and also Joel Harstad from Washington Emergency Management.
Oh, thank you.
We have Luke Jasmine from Governor Inslee's office. And then also just wanted to note that we have Brandon Monson from FEMA with us today. He is listening in. He's going to be taking lots of notes and conveying this back to headquarters and his supervisors, but he will just be here to listen and probably not answer questions as far as FEMA's response right now, but happy to listen in on the discussion for the remainder of the time. And I'll just hand it back to the Congresswoman and get started with hearing from a few of our guests that we have on the agenda as well today.
Okay, very good. So it looks like you have a copy of the letter in front of you there. So just a few days, January 22nd. So this is a letter that Senator Cantwell and I have sent to the president. As you all know, it's been 100 days since the Governor Inslee, and thank you, Luke Jasmine, for all your help along the way. But Governor Inslee requested the federal declaration for emergency, and that's very important. And that there's a lot of work that's done in putting that together. I know there's people in the room that could talk more specific about that, but all of the work that is done around the assessment and the damage and what you're dealing with is that the state has the thresholds that they are going to cover and whether or not they have the capacity to meet the needs following these fires, or if this one merits a federal declaration. And Senator Cantwell and I are requesting that the president make a decision. And what has been impressed upon me by the mayor and others around the table is that we need a decision, because that's most important. I think we'll hear more about that today, because other decisions and involvement at the state level and the local level are dependent upon whether the federal government and some of those resources are going to be made available. So the federal government provides supplemental resources, assistance, when the governor determines that the crisis exceeds the state's capacity to effectively respond without federal assistance. And FEMA evaluates the request, provides the recommendation to the president. I've met with Region 10 FEMA. I have talked with them. They've told me they've done all of their work, and their FEMA is listening in. They're on the call today also, but they have done all of the work, and it's really now at the White House with the president. And this letter is just to, again, bring it to the top of the pile and try to get some attention around getting a decision. So, Christina, is there anything else that you think?
I think we could get started hearing from, we'll start with Commissioner French and Commissioner Kearns if they want to jump in on how things are going.
Well, maybe I'll just, we're getting out, just one moment, Al. So I might just add that, so if the president were to approve Governor Inslee's request, then he would, in that declaration, the president would, authorize various types of assistance, but it would be detailed in the president's authorization, the type of assistance for a disaster designated area where the states, localities, nonprofits like the Red Cross may be eligible to receive reimbursement for the work that they've done, whether it's around saving lives, protecting property, public health, safety, and then also the work that's done to try to prevent future disasters. So we have that. I also should mention that we continue to work on the Malden Act, and those that have been involved in the recovery around Malden, they know, this becomes an issue. It became an issue following Malden, and again, it's becoming an issue here where we're in this waiting period. And the Malden Act, I'm really encouraged, again, Senator Cantwell and I are working together, so she's introduced the companion version in the Senate. And the Malden Act would provide, even before all of these assessments and emergency declarations, that FEMA would bring in a caseworker to help from the very beginning. Bring in people as soon as there is a fire, an emergency, that they would be able to help the local community and the state work through the processes and help bring people up to speed on what's available, and these caseworkers could then help the individuals that are trying to figure out next steps and help with the coordination. So the Malden Act is, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get it passed and signed into law this Congress, and so we're continuing to work on that. Okay, Commissioner French, I'll yield.
Well, thank you, Congresswoman, and I just want to say thank you to you for your leadership at the federal level and your bipartisan partnership with Senator Cantwell in terms of helping us to rebuild. We are now focused on the rebuild, and just yesterday, Commissioner Kearns and I testified in favor of House Bill 1899, which is also designed to try and help those in the rebuild status to be able to do it under current codes instead of new codes that might be imposed that would just add additional costs. So, and kudos to Mayor Cooper and her team for for all the work that they've done on the long-term recovery team. And we really are, it's a community that's come together. It showed incredible compassion to help our neighbors. And that's just what we do as Spokaneites. We help each other. And it's our tradition and it's our future. And so thank you again for all of the work that you're doing on our behalf. Like you said so articulately, we just need a decision, up or down. Just give us a decision so that we can move forward, because in the absence of a decision, we're sitting here with no direction and stuff. So thank you, Congresswoman, for all of your work. I'll yield to my fellow seatmate.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, so yeah, I do want to also highlight the yesterday, quite a group of folks from our region testified on House Bill 1899, including Mayor Cooper. There were representatives from the Valley Chamber, the City of Spokane Valley, and then Commissioner French and myself. Some folks from BIAW testified as well. So it seemed like it's got a lot of support. So there was discussion that there could be some alternative language floating around, but that's one of the bills that when a group of us were over with the GSI fly-in last week over in Olympia, we were lobbying legislators on that bill as well as several other fire-related bills. Thank you for your letter. Commissioner French and I had sent on December 11th a letter to the local Region 10 FEMA director, and sort of the response we got was, we'll let you know when we have something. So still waiting on that. As a county, we have dedicated roughly $1 million to of matching funds to secure grants that are a little over $5 million for the region. I also understand the project, and maybe Dick can touch on it when we get to him about the Connex boxes and how those are coming along. I hear the first one's almost complete. You got 3 other kind of in the pipeline coming about ready to get underway as well. So there's a lot going on. Unfortunately, there's always more work than I think there is time to get done, but folks are committed, and everybody is coming together and doing what they can to get us back to some level of normalcy. But unfortunately it's going to take time.
Well, it's been great to see how the community has really come together from the very beginning. The response was an amazing coming together of this community, and it has continued.
Yeah.
Barry, is there anything that you want to add? I didn't know. Okay, very good.
Just like the
Very good. Okay, and now Mayor Cooper, and she's your Mayor of Medical Lake and chairing the long-term recovery group. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Congresswoman McMorris Rodgers. We're so thankful for all the work that you've done for us. We're so thankful for the letter that went out early on and that you've helped champion that. That means a great deal. Locally, as we talked about the bills that we've supported, one of them is House Bill 1952, which is establishing a long-term recovery group. So that legitimizes that. It connects it then to the emergency management. We probably need that at the federal level too, because the biggest problem is the flow of government dollars. So the dollars were awarded, thanks, Governor Inslee awarded those dollars immediately almost. And we really haven't seen those dollars work very quickly. So why? And it's not because they're not all great people. Emergency management are great people. Working with Chandra has been fantastic, but the dollars just don't flow fast enough. But to educate the public about what long-term recovery group is, because it sounds a little squishy in my mind when I first heard about it, it's like, that doesn't sound very strong, or what is it? But really, when you see that it's an evidence-based proven model for resilient recovery within the community, and that is you can take those government dollars and you can put those into that 501c3, and when you connect that with foundations and religious groups, nonprofit groups who live to do this kind of work, you can get $10 on the dollar because of all of that. So that's really my mantra right now, is how do we legitimize this, educate the public about what it is. For instance, our long-term recovery group, our treasurer's a CPA and does federal level auditing. We have a retired FEMA military as our executive director, and a retired hospital executive who's decided to be our secretary. We have a Vista and a Novia, Reimagine Medical Lake, New Hope, Spokane Home Builders, and then community members. So these are strong community partners. So I've done relief
Yes.
work around the world, and you'll find that the faster you can get those dollars as close to the dirt as possible,
Yes.
the better the recovery. And we don't. We have people in high seats away from the disaster thinking what they know is best. Well-intentioned, but they're always wrong. They're always wrong. And it's the people in the community, and they'll hold each other accountable. They know how the
Yeah.
game works at the
Yep.
local
The
level.
most accountability is at the local level.
It absolutely is, and so how do we get those dollars to the local level? That 501c3 has the same accountability back to the government that the government has for reporting and, and record keeping and all of that. So that's really my main focus today. And I think that also, as I found, most of these emergency management groups are very slimly staffed, let's say. They don't have enough people, and it's really not their job. When this disaster happens and you get into recovery, it's other duties as assigned, and they still have to stay prepared, stay trained, be educating the public. So we need to let them return to their normal duties and let that burden be on the community. And they'll work with us, we report back to them, they guide us. So that's my other point. I talked about that and that and that. So I think the other thing that was important that came to me, like the Connex boxes. So I talked about this in Olympia all week last week. Every time we have a code change or a law change, we need to think, if a disaster happens, this doesn't work. We don't have exceptions built into the law at the state level or at the local level that says, and when it's an emergency, this is waived, and here's the person who has the authority to make a decision on what's gonna happen as long as the emergency exists. We don't have that. And so there was all this limbo about we know we wanna do the right thing, but we can't. So anyway, I'm probably taking up more time than I should. But so with the Connex boxes, I would say the county, you should look at rewriting that code, because those folks in a year are gonna be left burdened with having to rebuild, and we can't promise them the county's just gonna look the other way. I'm concerned about that, and it's just an easy fix. So I would recommend that you work on that right away, and because it'll help elk. And then the final thing that's so important, and I'll try to wrap it up quickly. One of the biggest needs in the elk community actually is they do not have broadband. Neither does Medical Lake. So Medical Lake, half our city burned down, half our residential, and our internet came through 40-year-old Connex. That's burned, it's gone. In Elk, after all the poles went down, CenturyLink said, sorry, we're not gonna provide internet to you anymore. That was their only provider. And so we have, in working with the county, there's Shrek, and if we can play well, they have those towers out there. We could probably deploy a few more cows out that way, and keep that stood up until we can get a more permanent solution. But that price tag's probably about $300,000 to $500,000, which is pretty cheap, to get ISPs to come in and get delivery, because communication, in working with Dick, communication is the biggest problem. On the west shore of Silver Lake, there's nothing left. And they also have, you're right next to a town, they have no internet. So that's my mantra. Sorry for taking so long.
No, it's good, it's good. Is there an opportunity with the state broadband office for them to make some money available?
So all of that is in the
Sooner
works. Mary and I both sit
okay.
on the Broadlink board.
Yes.
It's good to see.
Seems like,
I was given some magic words.
oh,
To tell
okay.
you. Let's see, I always say,
Okay.
I ramble on, but how do you really say it, right? So the need is, getting back to the bead and some of those things.
Yeah, the BEAD funding.
This has been drastically elevated by the Oregon Road impact, for which no internet, no home, leads to no ability to give aid. Broadlink, working with Spokane County, has public asset towers that may be, through Shrek and Board of County Commissioner approval required, of course, combined with semi-fixed tower called cows. The near-term critical access, while long-term solution would be using BEAD funding in Washington State are implemented. Given the approval use, other key public assets, funds between $300,000 and $500,000 can acquire capital needed to work with the ISPs to deliver access to connectivity.
Right.
I thought they had I thought I had some information about the federal level, but it would marry up very well with, the infrastructure build out for rural broadband, at the federal level. So this could open up opportunities as we're seeking,
Yes.
Mary will tell you how many
Yes.
grants we have out there, all the work that Arian Schmidt is doing. And I will tell you that Spokane, just so you know, of the, let's see, I have a note on this. There is,
And based on the South County pilot, that's how we'd be able to, based on our work down there, be able to use that technology that we can get it in other places.
31,000 Spokane County unconnected homes, and we are 5th in the nation for need.
So the BEAD funding is federal dollars. That part of the 42 billion that has been deployed or
Yes.
appropriated, and then about $1 billion came to the state. And so has there been a request made for
We're working
For-
on it.
okay,
now.
Yes, hotly after that
Yeah.
for sure.
that's good.
And separate things, that this would be an emergency use for some of
Right,
those dollars
right.
versus what the normal process is that hasn't come out yet.
I would hope they could do this quicker.
Yes, amen.
Yes, yes. Well, and
Faster.
to your point on Spokane County coverage, up until the update on the FCC map, Spokane was shown as 100% covered.
And
Okay,
hats off to you.
So that is, it's been a lot of work to get
Yes.
updated maps that actually are accurate about who's covered and who's not covered. And now you can go on the FCC website, and part of, we need to get the word out, that if you are not covered or if the speeds are not accurate, what they're telling you versus what you're living, then you can go out there and you can ask for them to address that. So I would say that would be something for Medical Lake and Elk both. Since you've been through a fire, I don't know if the maps actually are accurate to
Well,
what.
they'd have to be
Yeah.
updated, and I
Yeah.
hadn't thought about
Yeah.
that, but
So,
that
Yep.
would be a good case to make.
yeah, just make sure people in your region are going in there, or maybe, I don't know if the county can do that, but somebody
have-
would need to.
I just met with a
ask for that
partner
to be
yesterday
updated,
who could help get us those
Yeah.
numbers. He works with USDA,
There
and
you
he's
go.
willing to help us
Yeah.
get some of those numbers. But
Yeah.
we're already, even before the fire,
Yeah.
4th in the nation, Spokane County. When you look at the heat map, so the data is now all coming in on how
Well,
desperate the need
I don't
really
know.
is.
I'd have to look at that, because you go up to Ferry County.
Well, they have, Ponderay actually had they got in early and have fiber up there, so they have some really great.
The PUD has fiber, right?
And so, but anyway, and two, the density, so Ferry County and, so you look at populations unmet, that would be my guess, is the disparity, but I'm happy to get all the information to you, Kathy, so you can verify that.
Good. Dick Zenhart.
All right.
Good morning, and thank you for coming and for the show of support for us.
Yes.
Dick Zehnert, I have a dairy farm up there, we milk our cows with robots, and that allows me to be here.
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
anyway, it's been good with the Salvation Army and Red Cross, as when the fire happened, there was water and supplies for the people.
Yes.
But I thought that it might be appropriate for me to kind of do a review from the point of view of an average middle-class family in that area.
Yes.
That area is the foothills of Mount Spokane, heavily timbered. Because of the Growth Management Act, there's nothing less than 5 acres, it's mostly 10s and 20s. So 180 so homes were burnt in about a 24 square mile area, huge area. And to them, the first thing was August 18 was the fire. And then there was mandatory evacuation. And everyone, whether the fire hits your house or not, there was a camp at Riverside School. For those that had other resources, they left. But for 4 days, they couldn't go back in. And during that time, there was some looting going on, and they didn't know what they were gonna see when they got back home. And so when they were eventually allowed back, then it seemed almost to them like a conspiracy. because the first thing that they were hit with was the Clean Air Act and asbestos mitigation. We'd never heard of that before. And so the edict came down that you will not touch any cleanup activity until asbestos has been identified or tested and then the proper mitigation. And then you say, well, where do we go for that?
Right.
And the system was not ready to accommodate that. We talked to Governor Inslee, and he came back with several million, $3 or more million to help with asbestos testing and mitigation. It was dollars, sounded good, but there still was not people on the ground that knew how to take samples and where a lab was that could send them to. And some of the residents there were 2.5 to 3 months before they could get even any samples pulled.
Yep.
And so from August 18, that puts you in the winter. And so as time went by, then these other waves hit us that not only did you have to have asbestos mitigation and proof thereof, or the county would not give you a building permit in order to rebuild there. And then the solid waste transfer station said, we will not accept any burned refuse. So a local, a place where you normally take
Right.
your
Yes.
refuse
Yes.
now has to be hauled out to the Graham Road thing. And so, and the help from the governor, and the word came out was, the help would be in humanitarian reasons to those who are uninsured. Well, that's nice, but to a middle-class family that has a job and a house
Right.
and a mortgage
Yes.
and some insurance.
Right.
And by the way, so because of inflation, nobody had insurance adequate, nobody. And what those in effect that had insurance, in effect were told, you're kind of on your own. You know, the governor's money will never float up to you. So they had to get their own tests and their own mitigation, and the word's out, 40 to 60 or more $1,000 in asbestos mitigation.
Wow.
Yep.
And what that did is it took the cash from their insurance, and now it's been spent on mitigation.
Yes.
Yep.
And so now they're sitting trying to develop a plan. And with FEMA or no FEMA,
Right.
the Small Business Administration
Yes.
can do loans, but that's why we need to kind of get off center
Yes. Right.
and help. Because we've got folks that they still have a mortgage and the
Yes.
bank still wants paid
Wow.
on a house that's not there.
Wow.
And so they're renting in some other place, and so they've got a mortgage payment, a rent payment, and then they're trying to do a road to recovery. And or
That's a
you,
lot. That's a lot.
Yes.
so in the meantime, the Connex boxes, if you're not familiar, these 40-foot containers that used to be for shipping are now available. They're no longer qualified for shipping, so they're available. And so we've worked with a plan to insulate. It's a structure that's incredibly strong, but it will never be insured or insulated adequately. How do you get the right kind of ventilation and the kind of heat? And that's what Harry was talking about, that the county, we felt so sorry for the county because nobody really had the authority to say, yeah, it doesn't meet our standards, but yeah, you can live in it. And nobody wants to put a stamp on that.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
but Josh has done well to try to get that going.
Right.
We've got them. The caveat is, it has to be for a family that intends to build. It's a temporary housing for 6 to 12 months. And at the end of that time, they need to be in their new home. So it qualifies for a leaf of people. Those who are uninsured or in desperate poverty, it doesn't help them at all. It's a step in the right direction.
What does the Red Cross make available for families who've lost their homes and are waiting? Because that was,
So
because.
the Red
that-
Cross is
this-
only available for like the first 3 to 5 weeks, and they go away by design.
Okay.
They go away. You know, Salvation
So-
Army are doing case management, but they're not really offering relief. So it's really come down to the local Reimagine Medical Lake, Anovia, New Hope, and that's for those immediate needs. We have an unmet needs roundtable that meets weekly from the long-term recovery group, but it's just so slow. Everything that Dick said is ditto for the Medical Lake folks. And thank you, that was articulated so well. I don't know if you wanna hear from Jerry, she's really the boots on the ground in Medical Lake as kind of Dick is for elk. I don't know if she'd wanna add anything, if you don't mind, hearing from her, Kathy, that would be great.
Yeah, I agree. Dick, you definitely shared my sentiments exactly. And the only thing I would add is that, you know, I've got some specific individuals that come to my mind. I've got Miss Severs, who lived on Freeman Drive, and she's insured by State Farm and doesn't know if she can rebuild due to the insurance constraints. She loves the community. She has her horses, and she lost not only her property, but her barns, her all of her hay and her outbuildings, all of that. The Smith family, who's insured by Allstate, and their residents on Avista Lane, and the family both worked for Boeing for their entire career, retired here to Medical Lake by choice, and they don't know whether they're going to be able to rebuild. The Geringers moved to Page Pond, were living in a fifth wheel, hadn't been there all that long, and they were going to build their dream home. She is a teacher at Logan Elementary of Special Needs, and they don't know whether they're going to be able to rebuild. And I think that everything that Dick said, there's so much of this that our families on a day-to-day basis, because of permitting, because of insurance, because of asbestos and debris removal and all of these specific things in our community, they are using up every ounce of their own resources, and they just don't know where they're going to be at, and love our community. They want to come back. They want to be a part of this, and they don't know how. And what Dick said about the middle class American and being so underinsured, and then some, you know, that are not insured. And then the renters that, again, they were living here by choice, and they love our community and want to be here, and they need help so desperately bad, and don't know where else to turn. And so to get whatever that they can for support. And Kathy, thank you so much for having this.
So what would you say are the biggest unmet needs right now?
What the middle class family I'm talking about.
So you're not talking about the totally uninsured.
Right,
or-
I'm
yeah,
talking
you're talking
about
about
those-
people who had the insurance or.
They were commuting
Yes,
to
yeah,
Spokane,
yeah.
they got jobs. The place is starting to get cleaned up. They're finding that the heat penetrated the ground to where it compromised the septic tank system. And they're having to redo the septic system, which is a
Very
major
expensive,
expensive thing.
yes.
Some of their wells were burnt to the point they've had to drill new wells.
Oh my.
So when you add the fact that most of their assets are gone and they're still renting or living in a small trailer house there, and these waves of the insurance companies are saying we're not giving wildfire insurance to those people. And so the bank doesn't want to loan money to an entity that can't get insurance on that asset.
Sure.
All that.
Right.
So the people are struggling. It just seems like wave after wave coming against them. And I don't know, you can't solution for us, but it's a struggle that they're working on.
Right. We've had two major insurance carriers that are not insuring entire zip codes now. And so that is also a problem.
So you go to the bank and say, I would like to borrow money to
that's
to
not
build?
gonna work.
Part of the
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
and your
Yeah.
insurance
Yeah.
company is,
And
yeah.
the poor family, they're still
Right.
paying on a mortgage that had a home.
Right,
And now there's no home there.
right.
And so they're just out of cards. And they're trying to do a long-term recovery plan.
Right.
The case managers are there. And do you understand how the case managers?
Well, we were gonna go to Salvation Army
Okay.
next, so
And
yeah, they
they're-
would.
They're looking at the assets available and what they can
Right.
do with that.
Yeah.
And so Salvation Army has been great. And the governor's money has helped fund the Salvation Army's efforts.
Okay.
And so we want to have hands off to the governor and to the emergency management system.
Is there anything else you wanna add before we go to Salvation Army?
I think I've done my time.
That was good. It was excellent. Thank you. Thanks for what you're doing. So many. Yes. Yeah. So Captain?
Yeah, wonderful,
Yeah.
and I'll actually turn it over to
Okay.
Andrea because she's
Okay.
directly involved with some of
Okay.
the families here, and so she can speak directly to
Okay.
it, and then we'll
Great.
fill in any blanks.
Okay,
So
sounds good.
It's a pleasure for us to be here.
Thank you for
Yeah.
being here.
So I oversee the case managers who are on the ground. We have 2 assigned for each community, and we've partnered with the local agencies who are already in the communities. So we meet at different locations on different days. We have been in contact with about 300 families. We have 119 active cases right now. Some of the folks are not ready to open cases right now. They want to wait till spring or when the weather is a little bit better, so that's why that is. We also are able to meet immediate needs, so we have food boxes and we can help with like utilities and stuff like that. We do have some families in our housing that we have on our campus, and then we've been able to motel some families throughout the cold.
Well, are you able, so what would you identify as the biggest need right now, and how much flexibility do you have to help meet that need?
So a huge need is the people who are renting, as far as even if they were renters and they're renting somewhere else, or if they are paying a mortgage and then
Right.
also doing, so they're
Right.
paying double bills. So a lot of it is like the financial burden of having either moving out of the community and they live in the community, so there's a lot of transportation. Fuel is huge, propane, and then just basic like rental assistance, a Vista, or the other one just left my brain.
Right,
Inland.
yeah.
Thank you. So just like, yeah, regular bills.
And how much flexibility do you have to help those individuals?
So we don't have huge flexibility. We do have some, but we also have little pots of money that we can contact. We do reach out, Reimagine Medical Lake, we reach out to often, and then Gina from New Hope, because they're already established in the communities. And then Anovia, we're able to reach out to them as well. Other places have come forward and said, we have this pot of money, we would like you to help us distribute it. So we're able to reach out to them and ask if it's something they'd want to fund. And then we also meet with the Unmet Needs Roundtable once a week. And funders come to that table and they say yes or no if it's something that they want to fund.
And I would just want, Andrea's done an amazing job with our team. And echoing what Dick said, resources, that's the biggest challenge, is that there aren't enough dollars to help these families. And so the idea of the case management is to meet with the families and to be their advocate to the resources available, but there's very limited resources available. That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I'd echo that too. Our team, one of the internal works that we've done is keeping our case managers from getting so emotionally invested that we're not properly conveying the needs because we're just overwhelmed like they are as we sit in the difficult scenarios that Dick outlined. These are just very real scenarios, and it feels almost impossible. And so we're having mock meetings about how we're gonna best represent our teams just to make sure that we can get perspective and then convey as best we can, because our team is wearing that weight also. We'll have to go back to families and sit with them and feel like we've let them down.
Okay,
And
well,
and because they're not eligible from the unmet needs until they've exhausted all of their personal resources. And so they have to exhaust all of their personal resources before they can tap into any additional resources. And
now where does that come from?
From the Unmet Needs Roundtable.
from the
From
unmet
the-
needs.
So,
Who said that?
yeah, who said that?
Never heard of that
The
before.
group.
The group?
During the meeting, they just said it was the table of like last resorts.
Yes.
Well, it means that's for the longest term recovery, but bringing in those other partners around the table are supposed to be, there's other community resources. We still have DSHS and all our regular types of things.
What's gonna move the needle is the yes or no from the president.
Right.
Because once that happens, then the SBA will be able to come in and then we'll be able to actually build cases, or it'll just be easier on the process, because then people will be able to get into the SBA system and find out whether or not they're gonna be approved or not approved, and then it'll actually give us a better picture
Right.
of what we're doing forward.
So you're limited and so again, it goes back to the
Everybody's
importance of-
waiting.
Everyone's waiting and doesn't wanna like use scarce resources if there's gonna be
Some help.
some help coming from the feds, okay.
So for example, if
Yeah.
somebody gets a small SBA loan and partner that with their insurance that they have and almost get to being able to build their home, then we
Right.
go back to the other table and get that small piece to finish it. those kind of things. So it's, yeah, this is just, the declaration process is,
Yep.
we all think it's taking too long.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's
And then
taking way too
SBA
long.
only addresses those who can qualify for a loan. So
Right.
they're a low interest loan is what they are, but
Yes.
if you are, you know, below the poverty line, you're not going to get a loan. So SBA is kind of a smaller piece of what's the help is really.
It's not, yeah, it's kind of,
But it will help
It's-
give,
it's
it'll
a
help give
help.
us direction on which,
It
where we
will
go.
open other the decision would open opportunities for us to pursue other grants, other opportunities federally to maybe match what we.
okay.
Yeah, we have the $29 million ask for the west shore of Silver Lake that was burned down. 150 plus homes that were on private wells and septic. Like I said, the wells and the septic are burned down. They have to
Yes.
replace them, but they can rebuild back as they were. And that's impacting the health of the lake. So we have this opportunity, the city of Medical Lake has capacity to serve water and sewer to that community, and they are open to being served. But as we had it fully engineered, it's a $29 million price tag, but now is the time to do that. And so that is another thing that FEMA, you know, where we have that ask to the state of Washington. It would be great if we could get some federal match, because we can't wait. Once we let folks begin to build back, they'll settle into life
Right.
as it were.
Right.
And so now we have a clean slate and opportunity for, not only does it give them safe drinking water and sewer, but it gives access points. They had one way in, one way out. And it was a miracle we didn't have hundreds of lives lost, but that would give us multiple access roads in and out, and also protect the health of the lake. So, and it would get fire suppression down there. We'd have hydrants all along the lake too. So right now they can't get insurance. If the hydrants were there, they could get insurance. So it's a small window where we have to get a yes now, and getting some FEMA, if we had some dollars, it would come from project money, just like the Broadlink, you know, we could 300,000 to 500,000 to get that communication to the north, but we need a permanent solution, and getting those federal dollars to match for that so folks can get on with their lives,
Yep. Time is of the essence.
Time, it's always time.
So we have Washington State Management, Robert and Brandon, Robert Easel and Joel Harstead. And so part of this is the state capacity, because before the feds get involved, there's this assessment at the state level and the capacity, and we are talking about the most homes that were ever burned in a wildfire, right, in the history of our state. So this is
Actually, not the most. Would have been the Carlton complex back in 2014, but this was the most primary residences lost.
okay, but thank you. Would you give your insights for us right now as far as where we are and how things are going?
Absolutely. I think it's been said loud and clear that the lack of a decision on our individual assistance request is a severe hindrance to the recovery. And so anything, Congresswoman, that you can do to break that free, yes or no, I would prefer a yes, but yes or no, you know, it would enable us to get moving, I think, as a state and a community on things that are right now logjam. So I just want to go over quickly what we are helping with. Governor Inslee has made $5 million available to the community. Essentially, he drained his entire emergency assistance fund for the year, providing funding to the community. So $1.25 million is going toward asbestos testing, transitional housing, case management, and essentially meeting all of the other needs that are out there by the disaster survivors. We've taken $2.5 million from Department of Commerce, their emergency fund, and then the remaining $1.25 million in the governor's emergency fund. And that's going to be going to private property debris removal. And so we're looking right now in terms of debris removal, working with 30 uninsured homeowners with the testing and removal. Then we're tracking about 48 additional homeowners that are underinsured and in need of assistance. So we're going to be stretching those dollars as far as we possibly can to meet as many needs as we possibly can. And then, for our other needs, we're looking at RV winterization. We've talked about the connexes, utility reconnection, and basically anything and everything that we can help the community with in terms of meeting those needs, helping people make their way through the winter. We're working with long-term recovery group and trying to support whatever we can there. And then additionally, we're in touch with Spokane Emergency Management, Mayor Cooper, and again, providing reservists and whatever, staffing help that we can to continue facilitating the recovery. And so, that's kind of a high-level overview. And Congresswoman, I'm going to make a pitch here. The National Emergency Management Association and IAEM are going to come back to Congress and the administration. As you're aware, the Emergency Management Performance Grant is the bread and butter of what keeps emergency management working at the state and local level. Chandra's and her team are a beneficiary of that. And due to inflation over the last several years, we've lost about 20% of the purchasing power of that grant. And so there's going to be a request to Congress to up that so that we can continue supporting emergency management nationwide. So with that, I'll stop for questions.
Okay, thank you. Would you speak to this question of the uninsured that maybe were unexpectedly uninsured, that they, had lived there, had been paying their insurance for years and years and years, and yet are woefully uninsured when it comes time to actually rebuild, or covering the costs when the sewer and the wells have been burnt up, or the stories where individuals are being responsible for debris and asbestos testing and all of those costs that would have been unexpected.
Yeah, I'm not an insurance expert, and I'll ask Joel if I misstate anything. You get to correct me here, but we're well aware that costs have gone up, and that when an insurance policy is purchased, it's for replacement cost of a home at some point, and very often we're seeing, as has been mentioned around the table, that a lot of these ancillary costs are either not covered by insurance or are covered by insurance, but falls within essentially what that policy will provide. And so it stretches the homeowner or the policy owner very thin when it comes to rebuilding the home or making the property home, or making the property whole. And so it's just a challenge that we are seeing in the current environment, and that's why we're looking at trying to stretch the assistance that we are providing so that we can help the homeowners who do find themselves in that situation as much as we possibly can. And Joel, what did I miss there?
Robert, I think you got most thing straight on. As we know, it's that underinsured population. A lot of that is with the just where the policy at. You buy a home 5 years ago, the inflation rate has really kind of changed that market and the home value and building prices. One additional note that the underinsured is something that I know FEMA is tracking. They've recently published updates to that IA program guide, which does make some new considerations for underinsured, because previously a lot of it is either if you're insured, you're on your own. If you're not insured, we have some assistance for you. So now there is some work in that mid ground, but there needs to be more in that space. Within that's all I have. So.
Yeah, and I do need to caveat that new policy is not going to be retroactive. So it's not going to help in our case. It will only be for disasters going forward.
Okay, from emergency management's perspective then, who's responsible for the cost of the assessments and the debris removal and the asbestos testing?
Again, we're providing that funding to the county, and then the county is entering into contracts with vendors to do that testing and debris removal.
So am I hearing correctly that in essence the government is taking that on, or are homeowners ultimately responsible for those costs?
We are taking it on for the uninsured and to as much as possible the underinsured.
But
Everyone's underinsured, it sounds like.
But yeah, back to your original question, Representative, the true responsibility is the homeowner, is the ownership of the property, with the gaps or where we can fill those gaps where we can.
So these are EPA mandated costs imposed on a homeowner following a fire, and the homeowner's responsible for it all. Is that what I'm hearing?
It is.
Well, and it's not only that, Congresswoman, but the other challenge, and I sit as the chair of a Clean Air Agency, the other challenge is that there's no flexibility for the state or federal agencies to adjust to a disaster. And while the county has changed rules and changed policies to be able to be responsive, there doesn't appear to be that flexibility at the state and federal level, which then hampers our ability to be responsive to situations where you've got individual property owners that are in need.
Do any homeowner insurance policies cover the cost of asbestos and debris removal and assessments following a wildfire?
They do, but it's limited, so you'll have in your policy some $10,000 for debris removal.
10,000.
Yeah, and you know, and that's kind of the average. This was my request to the governor early on, is that we need to start thinking about wildfires the same way we think about tornadoes and hurricanes, that the government comes in and does the public safety cleanup because it's all hazardous waste. You don't tell somebody after a tornado, clean up your square, be sure you get it tested and follow all the rules and package it up and get it in the landfill. That's just asking too much of people. So we've got to change the way we do that, that when we have a wildfire and there's this number of homes, that the government should roll out the National Guard and the, you know, whoever they need to do. It needs to be pre-funded, and then we just need to roll it out with contracts and get that cleaned up in about 3 to 4 weeks so that people can begin to rebuild. It was months, and it was only because we brought in $200,000 of donated equipment and then volunteers and equipment operators to get rid of tens of thousands of trees that were just like pixie sticks. They couldn't even get to the debris because there were so many burned trees down. And so you just can't imagine what that looks like when you're standing in this middle of this debris field and it's like, okay, call your insurance company, you have 60 trees, they're $2,000 a piece to take down a hazardous tree. So volunteers did all that work in Medical Lake.
Do you have a number as far as what the cost has been on the assessments and debris removal?
It's about $3,500 average for the asbestos test. And then if it.
Do you have an overall number as far as what the cost has been for?
Well, it's spread
these
out,
fires?
everybody's individual, so 366 homes, 500 plus structures. So $3,500 per structure for testing. And then if it tests hot, it's between $60,000 and $80,000 to clean that up. No matter how much replacement cost you have on your home, there's a cap. And then they're done. You can move it around, use it for this, that. About 10% of the properties have come back hot for asbestos. So, you know, but it's, when that lands on an individual, it's too much. It's just too much. And so how do we do debris cleanup for all people? It's just not fair. And it's our duty. Public health and safety is our duty, and for us in Medical Lake, we have 2 lakes, shallow aquifer, and as I said to the governor, and he agreed early on, is you're letting it sit there over winter, through the rains in the winter, it's leaching into our soil, it's gonna get into our shallow aquifer, and it's headed straight for the Spokane River and our aquifer, and those forever chemicals, once they're there, you can't get them out. We know that from this PFAS stuff that we're dealing with already. So we have got to in the future, and now we need the money from FEMA to go in, and we don't care who's insured and not insured. If there's debris on the ground, we've got to get that packaged up and out of there. Yeah. So.
Anything, anyone else wants to add here? Do you have an overall number for elk? Do you have any idea how much money we're talking that hasn't been?
So many have already done it and already paid for it.
Yeah.
And they haven't been offered the chance to get reimbursement.
Right. Anything else from the commissioners? No?
Just want to thank you for organizing this meeting. This is very important. You know, we've done what we can with our building and planning to kind of bump victims of the fires up, you know, sort of to add as much flexibility. There's only so much that we're allowed to do under state and federal law, and so anything you can do that can assist would be greatly appreciated. But
Well, a big thank you to everyone, Salvation Army, county, state, governor's office, FEMA, who did I miss anyway? But everyone for being here, because part of this is raising awareness and just really making sure that President, the White House and FEMA are aware that there's a huge need here in our communities that needs to be addressed, and getting a decision is really important. So this is helpful. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah.